Why should you care about the well-being of animals? Many people who do care about the well-being of animals do it simply for emotional reasons. But are there any rational reasons to care about the treatment of animals? I think that there absolutely is. There are a range of arguments. Here I intend on presenting 3 arguments that can be used as a foundation to make rational arguments for caring about the treatment of animals. These arguments allow us to base our views in rationality, which is good because it makes our views stronger and more consistent. With a rational basis, our views become far more defensible and sturdier. A rational foundation is desirable. It is that rational foundation which I offer you today. On that note, let's get into what I view as the 3 best arguments in favour of the position that people should care about the well-being of animals. First, we will look at normalization as a rational moral concern, then reciprocity, and finally what I like to call rational empathy. When we analyse the morality of an act, we have to look at a range of potential consequences. These consequences can be quite complex, nuanced, and easy to miss. One consequence we must take into account is normalization. When we treat animals with great cruelty, as we currently do, we normalize the violent oppression and exploitation of sentient creatures. We normalize cruelty. Furthermore, we desensitize ourselves. The normalization of oppression, exploitation, and cruelty is obviously something which it can be very rational to oppose. Normalizing these things leads to them happening more easily and readily, potentially harming us and the people we care about. It is rational to advocate improving the treatment of animals on the grounds that the current treatment of animals normalizes things such as oppression, exploitation, and cruelty, things which a rational actor would not want normalized. I think this is a worthwhile and important moral consideration, and it can be used as a rational argument for caring about the treatment of animals. Now, on to the next rational argument. Reciprocity is a concept central to morality. In simple terms, it is the golden rule. Treat others how you would like to be treated. You give moral treatment and get it in return. This is a simple moral idea, but it is very useful. It leads to a functional society. Everyone gives moral treatment and receives it in return, while being able to belong to a secure and orderly society. Reciprocity is closely connected to rational self-interest. Be moral to others, and they will be moral to you. It is in your interest that others consider your sentience, so you must do the same for them. This creates a mutual moral relationship of reciprocity, which benefits everyone, leading to the best outcomes for all. Treating others how you would like to be treated is rational, because it ensures that others do the same for you. So, how does this relate to the treatment of animals? A rational actor will want others to consider and respect their sentience. So long as we can feel pain and pleasure, so long as we are sentient, it is in our interest for others to treat us in ways which acknowledge and respect that sentience. If we want other people to respect our sentience, which any rational actor does, we must then respect theirs in return. This is the reciprocal transaction. We must not only respect the sentience of those who can deprive us of moral treatment. To only respect the sentience of people or creatures who can punish us would endorse the idea that people need only respect our sentience if we can punish them. Some say animals cannot understand moral systems, meaning they don't deserve moral consideration. This is a very foolish idea. If you were, for whatever reason, incapable of understanding a particular moral system, would you want that to justify people doing whatever they want to you? I don't think so. A rational actor would not want such a thing. The consequence of this logic is that someone with a moral system that you can't understand is allowed to do whatever they like to you. This is not something a rational actor would justify. It is important to remember the complex ways in which our own behavior justifies our own suffering. As you can see, reciprocity can be quite complex. It is in our interest to care for even the creatures that do not themselves have the capacity to treat us with reciprocity, if we expect the same, which any rational actor does. We do not have the capacity to hurt everyone who might hurt us, but still we want to be treated well by them, and for that reason we must treat well even those which cannot place any punishment upon us if we do not. Similarly, if we were mentally reduced to a position in which we were incapable of reciprocity, we would still want others to care for our treatment. Therefore, we must care for the treatment of creatures incapable of engaging in reciprocity with us. So long as they are sentient, so long as they can suffer, we ought to treat them with the prevention of that suffering in mind, if we expect others to respect our sentience. We must unconditionally respect sentience and sentience alone, if we expect others to do the same for us, which any rational actor does. Reciprocity, as you can see, can be used to make powerful rational arguments for caring about the treatment of animals. It is in many ways complicated, but also quite simple. We want others to respect our capacity for pain and pleasure, so we must do the same. The final rational argument for caring about the treatment of animals that I will be presenting today is the rational empathy argument. Rational empathy is what I call a form of moral analysis which considers the propensity of an action or system to propagate or undermine empathy and compassion. The idea is fairly simple. Empathy and compassion are good things. Rational actors should seek to propagate empathy and compassion in both themselves and in society. These things lead to a more caring and kind society. Living in a more caring and kind society is in the interest of the individual. They give the individual a greater capacity for meaningful social interaction and the happiness that such interactions can generate. When we analyze the morality of an action or system, we should take into account its capacity to propagate or undermine these desirable things. How this applies to the treatment of animals is fairly obvious. The cruel way in which we currently treat animals undermines our capacity for empathy and compassion, and is therefore morally condemnable. It corrodes these valuable things, which we should be seeking to propagate, and in doing so worsens our lives on both the societal and individual level. It corrupts our society and makes it less kind and caring, and more tolerant of cruelty. It corrupts us, as it destroys our own capacity for empathy and compassion, greatly limiting our capacity for the meaningful social interactions that are greatly aided by the propagation of these things. We should care about the treatment of animals because the treatment of these creatures has the capacity to propagate or undermine things such as empathy and compassion, which any rational actor should want to propagate, both in society and in themselves. So that is 3 rational arguments in favour of caring about the treatment of animals. I think these arguments are fairly strong. If you are an advocate for improving the treatment of animals, you may at some point find yourself in a position where you must use rational arguments to defend your views. If you ever find yourself in such a situation, these arguments will serve you well. Personally, I think the rational empathy argument is the strongest, followed by reciprocity, and then the normalization argument. I hope you found these arguments interesting, and if you currently don't care for the treatment of animals, I hope you found them persuasive. Give me your thoughts on these arguments in the comments. If you can think of any additional rational arguments for caring about the treatment of animals, feel free to leave them there as well.